running is a big piece of my recovery. It's not something I depend on for my recovery. When I say recovery, I mean recovery from alcohol and drug abuse, or addiction rather. Running can't be the answer to my recovery, because I'm gonna get injured, I'm gonna get hurt. The running might not always be there, but it is good therapy. And I find that at these races of ultra long distances, there are many people like me there. So I have many friends in recovery, I have many friends in long running, and then if you want to think of the Venn diagram, I have some really great friends of that place where those two things intersect, and there are tons of people where those two things intersect. We talked about the question, what's wrong with you that you would run 100 miles? I find that there is a lot of people who deal with mental illness, with addiction, eating disorder, those kind of things, drawn to that long running game, probably because it takes an obsessive type of mind, probably because you really have to get to know yourself. Oh, you're exchanging addictions. You know, you gave up booze, you picked up running. I ran through my last drunk, so I can't say that that's true. A guy I know described it really well when he said, when I was using it, I was always putting masks on. I didn't even want to know who I was. I didn't want to face who I was and those hard truths. When I'm out on mile 80, I've pulled off every possible mask that I might possibly wear. I'm getting down to the core of who I am.
And how long do you have to run 100 miles?
So that's a good question. That describes what kind of race you're running. Because each race has a cutoff time period, you really need to consider the difference between discomfort and pain if you want to get through it, I think. When I had been running at the Zumbro 100 for about 24 hours, and it was maybe 35 degrees and this horrible wind, rain onslaught came out of the sky with hail and lightning, and ended up dropping from that race. What do they call it when you have, you can't stop shaking?
Hypothermia?
Hypothermia, thank you, is the word. I was pretty blue, and my arms were just shaking. I kind of associate real miserable times with the weather, heat, extreme heat maybe, or that kind of cold, or elevation in the Bighorn Mountains. When I got too high of an elevation, I just kept throwing up and couldn't stop. When you find the body's limits is where the misery piece is, and usually that, quite often that can be weather related. When you're finished, immediately after a finish, you feel like you're in a bubble. Probably has to do with the sleep deprivation piece. It feels weird talking to people and so on, you know. It's kind of like when you've been tripping acid, you're coming down or something like that. You know, it's like you're not sure really if that other person is going to melt or not, or you know, if they're really, though, if you're just on such a different wavelength than other people, you know, and you know that if you stop moving, you're probably going to fall asleep, no matter what's going on around you. So I think a lot of it has to do with that sleep deprivation. The first night, you never really sleep, though. You're waking up cramping, and you're just, usually I wake up just completely soaked sheets from sweat. It usually takes a couple nights before I really am able to sleep. And that's why I love these things, because you don't know if you're going to make it. You usually see people really mentally fucked up as opposed to physically hurt. There are physical dangers out there, of course, but usually what you see is just mental basket cases. And again, maybe that comes from sleep deprivation. I know some people who like break their arms and keep running, or sprain their wrists and keep running, that kind of thing, get it looked at afterwards. But usually what stops people, it's all up here. I think 2-3 a.m. is when you see some real messy, sloppy stuff. Yeah, you'll probably see people crying. I do like that feeling of being exhausted, and I do think that sometimes it takes a good several hours before you're really feeling good running. It's so beautiful out there in the middle of the night, I see, even when it's really hurting. Night running is magic. The surreal beauty of night running is what first pops into my mind. There's a lovely solitude that comes from being on the trail at night, even when running with others. A sense of peace, a sense of being in a holy place, a sense of being holy, a sense of being whole. It's like dropping acid. Shit's going to go down. It's going to get weird and intense, and the mundane will suddenly become sacred or unbelievably funny. But somehow, when doing these, I feel closer to God, my higher power, the universe, that thing that beats within all of us, than I do at almost any other time. Something about the toe socks can really reduce the amount of blister. Probably because my toes aren't rubbing against each other. So I'm putting gaiters on, and gaiters are just one more thing to keep stuff out of my shoes. Granted, I'm going to go through streams, creeks, and water's going to get in there and so on. What's going to be different about a trail shoe compared to a road shoe is going to be that it's going to just be a bit more aggressive on the treads underneath this shoe. This one's not super aggressive,